you define dogma?
I would define dogma as the attachment to a belief system because it doesn't require us to discern or question. And it likely, and most times, dogma rejects questioning as apostasy, as rebellion, as an attack on whatever the system is itself, instead of as a desire just to go deeper in your understanding. I'm someone who believes that consciousness isn't something that you inherit or that you adopt. It's something you practice. It has to be done deliberately. It has to be done repeatedly. It has to be done with precision, like any other skill. And that's where my depth framework comes in. It's a practical map for people who want to take ownership of their own minds without needing a religion or a guru to tell them how.
Welcome back to the Power and Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa Soul. Thank you so much for investing your time and your energy and your attention into tuning in today's episode. I know nowadays we have so many things to do. We have so many responsibilities. A lot of us are builders and creators, and we're changing the world in our own ways. And so for you to invest your time here today into this conversation, I greatly appreciate it, and I don't take it for granted. And I'm super excited for today's guest. We have Just J Thompson. He's a writer, brand builder, systems thinker, founder of the House of Anasah ecosystem, co-host of the BLC Pod, and author of Building Consciousness with Depth, a practical framework for people seeking conscious living without religious dogma or spiritual bypassing, which I think is huge. And I think this is exactly what the world needs today, right now. So that's why I'm super excited for today's conversation. Just Jay, thank you so much for being on the show. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure.
Yes, absolutely. My signature question to most of my guests is, who are you and who are you not?
You know, this question made me a little nervous. Every time I listen to people and their different answers, I'm like, oh, that's a good answer. Oh, that's a good answer. I'm like, what do I say that's not about what I do or what I've done, and more of like who I am in this place and time? And so I would answer it this way. I am a systems thinker who got interested in consciousness the hard way, all right, through loss. I lost my father at 10. I lost my first wife at 34 after we've been married for 7 years, and 2 of those years were spent battling breast cancer. So instead of seeking another belief system to numb and spiritualize the past, I asked myself, I was like, what is actually happening to awareness when you refuse to look away from the pain? And where does that awareness and consciousness exist beyond this time? And the question became the work. I'm someone who believes that consciousness isn't something that you inherit or that you adopt. It's something you practice. It has to be done deliberately. It has to be done repeatedly. It has to be done with precision, like any other skill. And that's where my depth framework comes in. And I'll dig a little more deeper to it as our conversation goes, I'm sure. But ostensibly, it's a practical map for people who want to take ownership of their own minds without needing a religion or a guru to tell them how, right? So in that sense, I'm really, even though in my past, I've been an elder in an apostolic church and Sunday school teacher, and I've had all of these, some religious training and some religious authority. I really consider myself to be an outsider because I rejected dogma early on, right? Even from that position of where a lot of people would feel like they had achieved and attained, and that's where people were trying to go. As I sat there in that place, I realized that it still wasn't suitable for the questions that I had. And so I didn't reject the work of consciousness. I just decided to make it more personal and to do it myself. So who I am is a person who decided to do it as a systems thinker and not as a believer. Now, who I'm not is a little easier to answer. I'm not a believer in another dogma or a spiritual system. I am not someone who believes in bypassing the hard stuff to get to enlightenment. In other words, going, none of it matters, so now I'm enlightened. I'm not that guy. I'm not an optimist who pretends that we don't have hardship and we don't have pain and that life doesn't hurt sometimes. And I'm not someone who thinks that building what we must build in our lifetime is easy or that it's quick. But I do believe it's worthwhile. So I'm not someone who tells a person that conscious work is going to be pretty, It's going to be fun. I'm someone that says it's just daily practice. That's who I am and who I'm not.
Absolutely love that. That was like a full expression of who you are right now. And so thank you for sharing that with us. It's truly special. And just so we can start off on the same page for this conversation, because this can get deep. This might get a little deep, right? So I want to start off really basic, almost as if we are making it easy for a sixth grader to understand, just for right now. How would you define dogma?
I would define dogma as the attachment to a belief system because it doesn't require us to discern or question. And it likely, and most times, dogma rejects questioning as apostasy, as rebellion, as an attack on whatever the system is itself, instead of as a desire just to go deeper in your understanding. So I think dogma is any set of thought that does not allow itself to be tested and challenged to prove that it works. It insists that you believe it, and it points to the fact that others believe it as proof of its effectiveness, as opposed to just showing that it worked.
Very good. And you already hinted to this earlier, but again, just to kind of make sure this is understandable at a sixth grade level. And I know a lot of parents listen to their shows with their sixth graders in the car. So, how do we describe consciousness to a sixth grader?
At the heart of consciousness, I would say, is awareness, right? And the greater one's awareness, the greater one's consciousness. And consciousness then could be described as your sense of being. And then as you develop that sense of being and you focus on that sense of being, you're able to shape it and really see it for what it is and then see what you want to make of it. So it's like mindfulness, in that it does require one to be present in the eternal now, but it is mindfulness on a large scale that extends the present in both directions, past and backwards and forwards, if you will, in our perception of time. So that's so. Let me go back to try the sixth grade approach again, because I was a middle school teacher. I should be able to do this. All right. So, but consciousness is presence of mind. It is presence of mind that can be tied to our identity, our own self-identity, the truest part of us and who we really are, beyond what people call us, beyond what people see about us, beyond what they think about us, even beyond what we have done. It is who we intend to be. That is our consciousness.
And what are your thoughts on taking ownership of our own mind? And where does dogma play a role in that, or where does it doesn't? And where does consciousness play a role in that, or does it not play a role in taking ownership over our own mind and our own beliefs?
I think it does. And here's why I say that. Although we are sharing this experience as, as conscious, aware energy, right? Sentient energy, interacting with other forms of sentient energy and at various levels and vibrations, and we're in this shared space, our walk is really an individual, solitary one. Our experience is solitary. And so much of what we put value on in life is how we are perceived by others, and even to the fact of how we will be remembered. Most people, when they think of legacy, they think of how they're going to be remembered in the years after they're gone, right? What are people going to say about me? What are the books going to say? Whether you're a president or whether you're a custodian or a groundskeeper or a fisherman, um, people are, even in terms of why people have children, often they're having offspring because they're concerned about legacy. They want to be remembered in a certain way. And as someone who grew up in church with a lot of dogma, the role model for everybody in the church I grew up with was like Jesus, right? And I thought about that. And I thought, here's an individual that, if you accept that this is the actual historical figure, then here's an individual who had a great impact. Name is known around the world, has been known for thousands of years, right? People, but people still can't agree on his character. People still can't really believe or agree on what he stood for, or whether or not he had a wife, or whether or not he did this or he did that. And so no matter what level of fame or legacy or longevity that our name is attached to, the only person who's ever really going to know you is you. And then from knowing yourself, we're able to invite other people to know us and get to know the real us. And then they can carry that forward through love. But that's it. It's authenticity and love that carries us forward, not what people say about us, not what is written, not what is remembered by faulty minds. So that I
Yeah.
don't think Dogma answers that. I think Dogma relies on someone else to carry on our our being, our essence, our permanence for us. And it entrusts it to groupthink to say, well, if a lot of people are doing this, then there's security in the herd. And I'm saying if you look at life, there's really no security in the herd. One way or another, we all come here alone and we all leave here alone. And this time that we have together is beautiful and it's wonderful, but it's not meant for us to define others. It's meant for us to learn about ourselves through our interaction with others. But the whole journey is a very personal, very solitary thing. And I think that's what
Yes. Yeah. Wow. Wow. So much there. You know, when I was younger, also raised in a religion that was really dogma heavy, um, I felt powerless. Even though I wasn't, there was an illusion of powerness, right? And I was, I was young, so I was a little too young to make a different decision. I was like 6 or 7, right? So 6 or 7 years old, at least in my generation, it might be changing, but you kind of go along with things until you can't.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Right.
might be in adolescence, 12 and 13, where you're gaining a little bit more identity and more preference, and you're like, that doesn't make sense. I don't want toast for breakfast. Nope, nope, and we see it as an attitude, but that's really someone coming into themselves and kind of whether they're still in the group think or not, like they are realizing that they have a choice. So back to my thing is there was this illusion of feeling powerless, and I really truly I think back, like, did I know what powerless felt like as a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old? And I really truly feel like I did. I don't think that that's me looking back labeling that. I really felt powerless because I was in church. My dad was a pastor for a short period of time. And when he wasn't, we were in church every Sunday. So this was a huge part of my life. So can you speak on that? Whether it's the illusion of powerless or the the powerlessness that people feel when they're in this group think, when they are in this dogma.
Yeah. So in my role as a teacher in various organizations, I've come up on this theory that what everybody's selling, regardless as to whether it's an organization or a product, everybody is selling primarily belonging and recognition. And most people are chasing that because that gives us a sense of security. So I completely resonate with what you're saying about your experience when you were young, because as you're growing up, there's a book called The Four Agreements. I forget who wrote it, but you've probably heard of it before. And if not, I'll kind of look it up and try to tell you. But it's based on ancient Toltec wisdom. But the premise of the book was that we are born into these agreements of what reality is and how reality works and how life works and where we fit in that. And we accept a lot of it on its face because what else do we have to challenge it? And the older we get, the more we see some things don't line up and they don't measure up and they don't fit us. And I want to pause right there because I think that's where I had a break with Dogma, in that I realized that a lot of what I was being given didn't fit me. Back to your analogy of the child who's coming of age and hormonal, and now they're starting to voice and they're like, listen, I don't like Brussels sprouts, and I don't want my hair done that way, and that's not my favorite color, and I don't want stuffed animals anymore. And for parents, they're like, oh my God, you're so different. But honestly, this child is who they always were. They're just coming to a better understanding of the difference between them and what they need and what everybody else has accepted is what everybody needs. So that powerlessness is a real thing because we desire recognition and belonging. It's a very, very brave move to say anything that others us from our community or our circle. It takes something special. And I'm not saying it takes something special in the sense that only special human beings have it. I'm saying it takes a special point in your development as a person where you start actually saying, it's not enough for me to look like I'm okay. It's not enough for me to look like I belong. I would like to feel like I belong. I would like to rest in the knowing that I'm okay. And that's going to require me being way more attentive to what I really need, how I really feel, what I really mean, and then being able to advocate for that for myself, even if it causes distance between me and the community or circle that I was born into. And as a
Yes,
young person, that's terrifying.
it is. It is. And just to reflect back, it's like that is self-awareness. That is increasing your self-awareness.
Yes.
What feels good to me, what feels aligned, what feels easy to me, what feels natural, what feels forced. Is this feeling forced? Yeah, this is feeling forced. Like increasing our self-awareness is is part of evolution, it's part of growth, it's this conversation. It's I think it's scary, and we'll talk about why it might be scary. I'll get your opinion on that. Before I forget, I just wanted to mention the author of the book. I love that book, The Four Agreements. Don Miguel Ruiz.
Yes, Ruiz. Yes.
Yes,
Excellent
yes,
work.
yes, excellent work. And you guys can find that on YouTube. You don't even have to go by. It's such a popular, famous piece of work. It is everywhere. You can even just listen to the book. When I Googled the author's name, I could see that the full book is on YouTube. Of course, support the author if you can, but if not, just go read it on you, listen to it on YouTube. Just
Get
get
the
it
knowledge.
done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
empower yourself. And then when you're better off, go back and bless the author.
Yeah, well, you're better off. Why is it so scary to be the outsider, the spiritual outsider, the person who says who's honest, the person who says I don't agree, the person who says this doesn't feel right, this doesn't look right, this isn't in alignment with me? Like why is that so scary for most of us?
The human experience is best enjoyed with someone. We are gregarious by nature. We like companionship. We like, I can go see the most beautiful things in the world. I can go and I've been to see some amazing places. But if you can't look over to somebody and go, man, this is amazing, and like get and enjoy that moment with them, the moment is still good, but it's so much better when you can share it, when you can get someone else's perspective on the truth that you're experiencing, right? Because in my mind, we're all born in darkness. And I'm not talking about darkness of sin or anything. We're born in the darkness of ignorance, ignorance of the world, ignorance of ourselves, right? And that awareness experience can be light if we combine experience with awareness. And then if I can get with other people who are using their awareness to shine light on the experience that is life and to turn these dark areas into well lit areas, then when we combine our light, our understanding is so much more vast. Our ability to comprehend and move within this space is so much more enhanced. Just imagine people moving through a dark space and they've got a lantern, right? If one other person with a lantern way over there to off to my right comes over and they bring their lantern, our light combines. And every time we get someone else in our little circle, we get more light, we get more understanding. And I think there's something in us that craves that. It craves that connection. But the problem is, and I learned this from marriage. The problem is you can't really connect with someone. You can't, it's not wise. You can, but it's not wise to offer ourselves or connect with someone when we don't really know what we're offering. We don't really know, because you'll connect on the things that you're aware of or that you're conscious of or that you are key to. But the things that we have avoided, overlooked, or that are running subroutines through our lives. We just kind of habits we picked up, these agreements that we've adopted. Those things are also points of contact with other people, which will either be connections or points of friction. And so I think our desire for companionship, our desire to know that our experience of life is real, to have it validated because it's shared, I think that makes us reluctant to be the nail head that sticks out above the rest. I think that, especially for children when they're growing up, there is such an impetus on them, such a weight on them to figure out how they can blend in with the group, right? That peer pressure is such a big force because I think when they leave their family circle and now we're out in school and we're out in other circles, we want that acceptance. We want that belonging that either we found in our family and now we're in the other social circles and we want to emulate, or that we lacked in our family and we thought other people had. And now we're trying to find it in our own other circles. But if we have to dim our light or not say the hard thing so that we get the company, that's the choice that I think. I don't want to blame culture or any particular culture or society. I just want to say that's the choice that we've been asking people to make. And because we tell people don't rock the boat, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And so I think that the fear is obviously just rejection, that somebody's going to say that you're crazy, that that someone is going to invalidate you. That's the fear. The fear is that I have this fledgling idea of myself and my identity and the way I see and perceive and interact with the world and the way I experience it, right? And I have this and I'm coming to understand it. I'm starting to try to explain it. And the last thing I want is for me to show it to somebody, figure it out, and have it devalued. And I think it's in that nascent nature of that developing of our individual understanding and perception and experience where it's most fragile, right? That we'd like to have someone else echo it. We'd like to, like that the example I gave of looking at something beautiful. You'd like to have someone else perceive it from their side and show you another side of it or whatever, or even verify that, yeah, I see what you see. We love that. It's comforting. And because generally most people aren't doing something different. Most people are saying the same thing. It doesn't feel like we're going to find anybody or we know anyone who's going to say, yeah, I feel that way too, because you feel like you're the first person in the room. I think nobody really wants to, very few people, I hate to say nobody, absolutes do not exist in this universe. But very few people are content with knowing for themselves that what they know is their truth and being able to sit in it and being able to wait for other people who are on that same vibration to move within their space. Most of us would rather attune our vibration to those of those around us so we can stay with the group and we can feel loved and we can get that acceptance and recognition that I think everybody chases for.
Yeah. Wow. So powerful. So yeah, it's rejection, right? We fear rejection. We fear being invalidated. I'm going to add on my own 2 cents here and say people fear loneliness.
Yes.
Now, my personal opinion is I don't think there is a such thing as loneliness. It's when you're deeply connected with yourself and God and the universe without the dogma, right? You don't need dogma to be connected to God and the universe.
We're talking about loneliness. And I think the struggle with us evolving as you can call it as a species, as a people, or what have you, is that we are losing rather than gaining the ability to hold two truths simultaneously, right? For instance, we talked about loneliness. Once you realize that we're really all connected, this whole thing is connected. The inanimate objects, the birds, the water, it's all connected. It's all energy flowing at various frequencies. Um, sometimes it's matter, sometimes it's force, sometimes just as energy, even ourselves and the energy and all these things are happening within us. Once you realize that we really are all connected, then loneliness doesn't really become a thing because I'm able to recognize that, like, if a leaf, I'm lonely the way a leaf on a tree is lonely. You know what I mean? There are a bunch of other leaves, but yes, this one leaf is sitting on a stem, and it seems isolated and it seems solitary, but it is one of many, and it is part of a forest, and that forest is part of a park, and that park is part of a so
Yeah.
part of something greater. And when we realize we're all connected, then we don't mind being individual. We don't mind being different because we realize that's our purpose. We realize that, yeah, that you needed a different leaf from the one leaf. These leaves had to be separate because one leaf can't capture all the sunlight. It needed the other.
Right.
So I was just
I
thinking
love that. I
of
love
a
it
few things
because we're giving the listeners an idea of what's on the other side of this sphere. One, my advice, I don't know what Justin's or Just Jay's is, but my advice is to change your relationship with rejection. It's not that easy. Again, I did it through a career as a realtor. You could figure out what other ways you want to do it. Joe Dispenza has some work on how to change your beliefs around something, but you change your perspective around the thing, rejection. And then with loneliness, change your perspective around that as well. But that's going to require some homework. The homework is to connect with yourself deeper, I believe.
Yes,
Before you
that's
could
right.
really embody, not just bypass, like, oh, I'm not lonely, but no, when you're really like lonely, I can't access it. It doesn't exist right now. I'm on an island, but I'm connecting with God. I'm connecting with the birds, with the trees, with myself, and within me is so much love and abundance for humanity. I feel humanity inside of myself. Like you can create like this just this perspective for yourself that allows you to really dive into that piece of consciousness. Any thoughts on that?
So the funny thing is, my path was I had very, 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 very low self-esteem as a child, very low, and so much to the point where I would try to be whatever I felt like the person wanted me to be. And I really was big on like finding the love of my life and finding my person. So here's this young kid, and I'm talking about as early as like 6 up to 12 or whatever. And if the girl likes poetry, I learned, I do poetry. And I am actually a decent poet. You know what I'm saying? If she likes singing, oh, I can sing. If she wants an athlete, I played sports. I did all these things to try to be what I felt like people wanted. And then I got to the point where I realized that a couple of things were happening. I wasn't sure which one was really me anymore. And the goal kept moving. As much as I tried to be what people wanted, what they wanted from me was something to meet their needs in that moment. And while I spent time trying to be and trying to shape myself to that need that I thought I identified in them, they were still growing and changing and learning new needs or having that need met by something else. So I may show up as this, I'm the solution. And they're like, no, it's a different problem now. I need you to be this. And I realized that I was never going to be happy in that because I couldn't be sure that I could even make the other person happy with the changes I'd done. So now here we are and nobody's happy. So I started going, well, let me just figure out what I like. Let me figure out who I am. What do I like to do? Do I like poetry? Do I like to sing? Actually, the answer is yes. But there were other things that I think I adopted that I probably didn't like, and I had to shake them off of me. And then in doing that, you do begin to cultivate that self-awareness and that ability to say, well, if it's okay if I'm the only person who likes this, because at least I know I like it. And I know it brings me joy. And I bet because somebody makes it or because it's there, I bet I'm not the only person. I bet there's somebody else out there, even if they're not in my circle. And I'm better off finding someone who clicks with me for who I really want to be than someone who clicks with me for who I am trying to be or would like to be perceived as. And so you almost embrace the loneliness from your immediate area so you can be identified by your tribe.
This might be a crazy thought, but as you're speaking, I'm just thinking like, wow, if even 50% of the population 51% of the population embraced what we're talking about, because I don't think we're there yet. Not that I know, I'm guessing.
I don't think we're there either. I agree.
Okay. But point is even if we got to 51% or 50% of people, do you know how much connection, like true connection, would evolve? How much of these distorted energies and distorted dogmas would dissolve? How many problems would actually just fade away and be replaced with solutions because of the honesty, the transparency, the alignment between people who are getting married or in business partnerships? There's just a lot more truth and alignment in every direction. So I love to think about every time I have a guest on like yourself, Just Jay. I'm especially towards the end of the conversation. We're still going to get into your depth framework, but
Okay.
I just wanted to, because I'm always thinking about humanity and I'm always thinking about the bigger impact. And I'm like, man, we got to spread this message because, again, getting more and more people, and I'm not saying 50% is a magic percentage, and how will we know when we're ever
51 is majority.
51 is majority? How will we know when we're there? I don't know. I'm just you guys get where I'm going, right? I'm just using my logical mind is trying to grasp onto something to measure it, just so we can aim for, we could just aim in that direction, right? Stay on your path, keep your boundaries, so that way you don't end up in this group think. Keep your uniqueness, be okay with being misunderstood, all the things, because this really will put us on a different frequency as a collective.
I agree. I feel like if we could start adopting this, if we can start just teaching our children to kind of process a little differently, I wholeheartedly believe that we could change the trajectory of our species.
Yes.
I think we could do it. And I think the evolution that we're looking for, that some people think are like in computer chips and being more AI and being more technologically savvy or whatever, I think all that's good. But I think if it doesn't accompany elevation of our awareness and our perception and our understanding of what it means to be, this goes back to holding two things at once, to being a human being. Yes, I am human, but I'm also focused on who I am being in the eternal now. And those are two things happening at once, right?
Yeah.
I have a immediate conflict in my life, and I can deal with it in the moment, or I can think about what kind of consciousness am I shaping that will exist beyond this experience and beyond this time, and to have both things, to be both human and to preserve your eternal being at the same time, is I think where we need to go in the elevation of our minds and in the elevation of our perspective.
Beautiful, beautiful. And this is why you have a book, and this is why you have a framework, because now people are like, okay, this all sounds great, Just Jay. Vanessa, thank you. This is all good. It sounds ideal. But what do
Let me
we
talk
do?
about the framework.
How do we embody this? So give us a glimpse of what
Okay.
the framework of depth, D.E.P.T.H, is.
All right. So here it goes. This is something I would love talking about. Wrote a whole book about it, and it will be out soon. Looking for a good publisher. Anyway, so transformation doesn't happen through insight. Okay. It happens through repeated practice. And that's what depth is designed to do. All right. So I want to start with a dimensional example. If you take any point and you move from that point, you're going to move in one of what we determine as the three dimensions: length, width, height. That's where we get 3D from, right? And then the fourth dimension, as I'm sure your listeners already know and viewers already know, would be space time. Okay. And we talk about the fifth dimension. I've heard some guests say it's the mind, and I'm with that. But I wanted that fifth dimension that I call depth, because after I have extended out in all directions, length, width, height, and I've measured the space and the time, the difference between any of those two states, right? Then where's left to go? Where's there left? Well, the only place left to go is internally, depth, right? We did height, we didn't do depth. So from that same point where everything extends outward, and that's where most of our perception lies, most of our experience of life is outward. He did that to me. She did that to me. My job treats me like this. the country, it looks at me like this, or everything is external, and we're using our light and our awareness to define all the things around us when we should be using our reflection, the reflection of our light and awareness on the things around us to tell us more about ourselves. So if you imagine,
repeat that last part, that hit for me.
Okay, so we go through life with a very projective perception, right? And so we're moving through life, and we use our awareness and our experience to define the people and things around us. So we go through life trying to define life and our world by just how the rays of our awareness, imagine awareness is light, are bouncing off of things, kind of like the echo location that a bat might do, but we do it with our awareness and the light of our perception. What we don't do, though, is we don't reflect on that experience to say not what it tells me about you, right? Because, some philosophers, some people will go, oh, this is all a simulation and this is all that. Well, Francis Descartes, one of the prominent philosophers, had a famous saying. He said, I think, therefore I am, right? So maybe I'm not sure if you're real. And maybe I'm not sure if this world is real. And I won't even get into all of that. But I know the person who's asking the questions is real. And that person should be investigated. That person, their depths should be plumbed. If we're going to understand and get to know anything through and through and map something out, we should be mapping out that person, not the phenomena that person is interacting with. That doesn't define us. It's what's inside of us. So when things come and we experience people and we experience challenges or whatever in life, the real purpose is to use it for depth, to reflect on it and say, what does it tell me about me? So for those of you who are listening, I'm holding up my fist as though it were a ball, right? And I want you to imagine my fist is that point, and that all these perceptions are extending outwardly, right? So wherever we draw that line from the edge of that point, that circle, that sphere going out, that edge that we identify as ourself, what if we turned the lens inward? So inward, we're looking at the length and the width and the height and the space and time between them as we measure ourselves and as we mold our consciousness and our perception, as we work to evolve ourselves, and we do that real work, right? Then the world within us is far more vast than the world outside of us. And what's even better is we know that world is real. We don't have to question if it's a simulation or if it's an alternate reality or any of the other things that we put our mind on to try to escape if this is really happening, because we know we're really happening. And I know no matter what, if I pass from this realm, I know who's still here. I'm still here with me. So what I cultivate on the inside of me is the realest thing I could build in my lifetime. And that's what depth is. Depth says when something happens, because this is how you practice it. And I'm actually going through it right now. Real talk, real talk. I'm in a season right now that would have destroyed me 10 years ago. I'm feeling anger. I have the temptation to retaliate. I feel guilt for letting it come to this far. I feel guilt for the people who are affected by what's going on. All of that is happening. I am not some guru I'm not elevated above all of that. I feel it all. I feel it deeply, but I use this practice. So every day I use this framework and I ask myself, what about what is going on and what about what I feel is real and what's ego? What's wrapped up in what I want to project to people and what's really me? Because I really shouldn't be dealing with what's really me. People are going to see what they're going to see about me, whether it's what's true or what's not true. I am not in charge of their perception. I have no control over their perception. Therefore, if you're really going to be honest, I really am not responsible for their perception. What I'm responsible for is how I'm showing up. How they read that is one thing, but I know what I crafted and I know what I'm making, and that's what I have to be focused on. So that practice is what's keeping me from spiraling. So it's not a spiritual bypass to go, I'm above all this, because I don't believe that. Like I feel these negative, what we call quote unquote negative emotions. I don't believe. I'm just 1 second digress. I'm gonna come back to the reads and weeds in a second, but I don't believe in negative emotions. I believe in the negative use of emotion. Emotion is a tool. It's energy in motion. You can be mad at somebody and go hit the gym and have a great workout session. You know, you can be filled with grief, but in that grief is the vacuum and cavity that grief creates is evidence of a love that was large. Sometimes I think one of your guests said it before. They didn't know how deeply they could love till they felt the grief behind it. So
Yes.
there are no negative emotions. That's just what we're going to do with it, right? It's
Yeah.
fuel, like any fuel. Gasoline runs a car. Gasoline can also set a house on fire. It's what you do with it. It's knowing the nature of it and how to channel it. So here's what depth looks like. Depth stands for discern, engage, practice, transcend, and then harmonize. Okay? Here's how that works. When I discern, I ask myself, what's real and what's ego? Am I ego tripping or is something really happening here? And then I say, now that I've discerned that there's some ego happening here, I'm going to engage that. I'm going to ask myself, what is I'm trying to project or prove that has me feeling this way, and what are my needs even? What needs do I have deep inside that I'm not expressing, that I'm not really dealing with, that are making me want the things that are causing conflict or disappointment in other people, right? This friction. It's not the other person. It's not that they're to this or they're to that. The point is, I have a need. It's not being met. I have yet to label it and address it to the point where I can bring it to this person's attention. If I bring it to their attention and they don't do anything with it, that's a whole nother conversation. Then I gotta go, what does it say about me if I stay? Or what does it say about me if I go? Not it has nothing to do with them. Nothing at all.
Right.
Anyway, so we discern, then we engage. And where we engage, we actually meet what's true. Not what we wish were true, just what's really true about the situation. And then when we do that, then we practice our new approach. And that takes time. And as you practice, as you do it more and more and more, like working out, like building any muscle, building any skill, eventually you transcend. It goes from being practiced to just being what you do, to being who you are. Because we're able, unlike so many other beings in our experience of reality, we are able to self-edit. We are able to self-modulate. We are able to tweak our own frequencies. And that is the most powerful thing about us. Trees don't get to change themselves. Fish don't get to change themselves. But we do. And that is amazing. It's the greatest gift that we could possibly be given. And so once you transcend and once you have this new understanding and you're looking at yourself different and you understand yourself a little better, the last part is to harmonize. The last part is to look around the rest of your life. Here's where that space-time comes in. You look around the rest of the internal part of your working and your life and your psyche and your consciousness, and you say, am I holding true to this throughout my other areas where I'm expressing and projecting myself? Where are other places where I might need to apply this, where I might need to apply this truth that I discovered about myself? Is it harmonizing with the way that I'm moving throughout space? And then if it's not harmonizing, then we go to that point in our little circle and we start from there and we do the depth and we do the work. And in that, we shape a consciousness that is intentional and we shape a life that is intentional and we shape a being that we can be proud of because we know what we built and we know why we built it. And we become the kind of person we'd like to be stuck in eternity with. So
Wow.
that's it.
That's powerful. Powerful stuff. I can't wait for your book to come out. Please remind me. Do you have a date, or you're still looking for the right publisher?
I'm looking for the right publisher. It's already written. I have an app that goes with it. There's a companion app where people can actually. I don't even want to tell too much but there's a companion app that goes with it. But when I get it,
you may not even have this yet. But as soon as you create the community for this, I'm in it. I'll be your first member because I think the book and the app and the community and weekly meetings and really diving into this framework and embodying it and reprogramming ourselves from the conditioning, from the dogma, from the groupthink, from all the things is really powerful. And that framework that you just explained, it's a process on really how to be present with your evolution.
Yes. Yeah, I'm excited about it. I always wanted to change the world, right? As a kid, I wanted to be president at one point, and I wanted to be a leader, a civil leader or something at one point. And that's why I became a teacher, because I wanted to change the world. And in all of those things, what I really decided was my the greatest legacy one can leave is a legacy of thought. Because thoughts don't die. Thoughts can't be bombed away. They can't be killed. You know what I mean? Thoughts will persist. A frame of thought will persist. And if it's right, if it stands, then it can be good for all of us. And so in that way, I know I will have left my impact on the world, whether people knew it was me that did it or not. And that's okay for me.
Yeah. That's why I have this podcast is thoughts, the power of circulating thoughts and creating new thoughts from thoughts and having people rethink thoughts and create their own. And it's a evolutionary process of thoughts that happens.
It is. Then that's where our evolution lives. I agree with you. I love that. And I'm so glad you have this space. It's an amazing space. I really thought I was just going to listen to one episode, and then I got to listen to another one, and then I played another one. And I love it. I really, really love it. So as much as you're a part of my community when it opens, I'm already a part of yours.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, and I'll be your number one because I'm like, wow. Like I can't wait to practice this on a daily basis and for it to become like a lifestyle. Like I'm sure I already am, but
I think we are.
But to have that intentional space, like the framework that you have is intentional. Each letter standing for something different, and then there's a process within the D, within the E, with the and it's just like it's a guidance. It's not a dogma. It's not a belief system. It's just a container so that you can operate how you want to operate within the container. If you want to go outside the container, you could do that too.
Yes. None of this is about becoming spiritual. It's about just being conscious and aware of what's actually happening and being taking control of your own consciousness, your own being.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And that brings us full circle because that's what I kind of started with was having control over our own thoughts and choices and things like that. And I feel like you and I can keep going for like another hour.
Yes,
so we gotta wrap it up before we can't stop. Can you leave us with a word of wisdom, a mantra, or a quote, anything on your heart?
Sure. I want to take you back to my time as a child with low self-esteem, and what I ultimately learned. What I ultimately learned was that I cannot prove to anyone that I am anything because I cannot govern their perception, and I cannot even trust that they're going to believe me when I tell them. But what I can do is be intentional about improving myself in the ways that matter to me as a being so that I am satisfied with myself, so that I can love myself, so that I can be proud of myself, so that I can be, again, the kind of person I'd like to be locked into eternity with. So I want to stress improving over proving. Okay. It's not about making other people think or see anything. If you show up as who you are every day, they're going to see it. And even if they don't, it's still real. They're not seeing it, doesn't take away the value. That's what's so beautiful about it. You own it like it's yours. So don't perform enlightenment, people. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about trying to prove you got it figured out. Don't worry about trying to prove that now you're perfect and you're better and you've got it locked in. None of that matters. Just improve your consciousness one choice at a time, because that's where transformation lives.
It's one choice at a time.
One choice at a time. We only have the present. Yes, it is an eternal present, but the future never shows up. And the past is some arbitrary line that we drew within our entire present because there were some parts we wanted to divorce from our experience. But it's all fake. It's all really just the present. So in your daily decisions, just practice taking the time to see what's real and to choose from that place.
Oh, so beautiful. And we have Just J's links here in the description so you could choose which platform is best to connect with him. So please do connect with him and I know this conversation is going to land because it's landing for me in so many ways. So I know it's going to land with so many of you. So he's on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. And then get into his community or find him somewhere so that you can get updates on the upcoming book, Building Consciousness with.
I'm sorry. Yeah, MrGoodwoods.com has the book. It has everything, all the projects I'm working on. It's like the hub for all things me. So that's if you don't want to go through all the links, it'll take you to the Substack and everything else. MrGoodwoods.com will take you there.
Beautiful. It's a beautiful website. I was looking at it during our conversation. I love the black and gold.
Thank you.
And I was looking to see if your community was already created.
Substack is like the only place where my community lives now, and we're a small group.
Yeah. Okay, beautiful, amazing, amazing. Well, thank you so much, Just J, for being on the show. I truly appreciate your wisdom, your time, and your energy.
Yeah,
Cool.
thank you for having me.
Yes.
I consider myself to have made it now. So
Yeah.
thank, and I'm really not gassing you. I'm not gassing you. Like I really have a lot of respect for what you do in the space and for your voice and for what you bring. And so I'm excited to be here. This conversation has been so great. I will be smiling for the rest of the day. So I want to thank you for the opportunity and for the experience.
You're so welcome, because I feel like there's only a few of us that are diving into these types of conversations as often as we can. So I appreciate it and I receive it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. For all the listeners, thank you for staying with us, especially till the end, even if you had to come back to this in a few days, because I know how hard it is to squeeze an hour out for a podcast episode. But if this resonated with you, chances are there's someone in your life right now that really needs this conversation. I mean, really needs it, because you never know what people are going through. And this really might give them some clarity or some direction on something in their life, even if they're acting like everything's perfect. So if someone popped up on your mind today or in your heart, trust your intuition, text them right now. Let them know that you're thinking about them and tell them that they might enjoy this episode. You listened to this episode, you loved it, hopefully, and that they might like it as well. They might gain something from it. That would also help out Just Jay and myself. Really get this message out. Maybe we can get to the 51% goal that we have, where people are really operating from this deeper framework of consciousness. Who knows?
This is a good start.
Yeah, it's a start. It's a start. All right, everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Namaste and have a great day.